all we can really say is, wow, you're listening to the Realest podcast. Blake Carter.
Dropping that realness on you.
Oh, yeah. What a takeover pay-per-view. I mean, nothing other than that to really say about it. It was such a good takeover pay-per-view. You know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, come on, that UK tournament match, oh my god.
That UK match was out match of the night.
Oh yeah, better than Urquhart or anything like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. Match of the night, the UK Championship. Bobby Roode, Hideo Itami, good match. I think the only thing I can really say wasn't that great was the women's match. The only reason I'll say that is because of, I think that Ember Moon not being there, and I think I said this on the prediction show, did really hurt this match, and it really did feel like it was just there. But again, what a night. You're listening to the Realest podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel and you're enjoying what you're listening to, also hit that like button. Man, what do you think of tonight, man?
I enjoyed it. I mean, like, it's a takeover, so we knew that, it was going to be entertaining. It just, there were some good things and some bad things. There was a lot of good things and a few bad things, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can jump off right on to the top. What everybody's probably talking about right now. Tommaso Ciampa has turned heel, and the DIY is no longer a thing. I mean, in reality, they're not.
Yeah, but it's surprising that they would split them up, considering that, without each other, there's really nothing, in my opinion.
Well, like I said before, or like I said to you before we started the show, just imagine the storyline for an NXT Takeover. Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano in that caliber of a match. It's going to be outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
I personally cannot wait for it. And if anybody watched the Cruiserweight Classic, those two, in my opinion, had the best match of the entire tournament. The story they told in that match was outstanding. I don't know if anybody else saw that. I'm hoping everybody did. But it was an outstanding match.
It really was. I mean, it was up there with a lot of the best matches there. For sure, possibly the best match of the tournament.
Yeah, in that ladder match, there was a lot of high spots, and I honestly thought Gargano messed up on his on their spot to break the the ladders off the top of the ladder. I thought he messed up. I thought he overshot it. And it looked like he didn't land right, but when they showed the camera angle, he honestly and truthfully got really lucky and did somewhat of a front flip on the way down.
Right. Well, I mean, when Gargano did that, like, jump off the ladder, like, you see how he kind of cleared him in a way. Like, his whole body was over his by the time he got to Razor, and it literally, like, I think his knees hit him, and you just see his head go face first into the mat. I was like, oh, God.
Yeah. It was crazy, to say the least. I think that's the best way to put it. Is crazy. The question is where do we what's next for the tag team division? Obviously, we're not going to be seeing the whatever they're called, DIY anymore. We don't know what's next for the the face tag teams. Heavy Machinery could be next, but a lot of people including Kyle is not a fan of Heavy Machinery. And it's understandable. But I think the tag team's going to be in a huge rebuilding phase now.
Absolutely, and it needs to be at this point, because it's just like we said before when this match was going to happen, is that DIY is the only really face tag team available, which means that we really don't have enough tag teams to really kind of entertain the tag team division, which is kind of scarce. And the reason for that is, for the most part, is because of the draft. And the draft, we're still kind of feeling the effects of the draft, and a lot of teams that they've tried to put forth just haven't really stuck. or they haven't really spent enough time on them to really develop them, with the exception of heavy machinery. So at this point, it's going to be like, all right, well, Akam and Razor are going to be the only ones left at the top of the mountain. How are they going to rebuild with just those two tag teams?
Right. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Roderick Strong and Eric Young told another great story. Roderick Strong is so fast in that ring, it's not even funny. How quick he is. Holy cow. That was another good match, though. You know, again, I want to say, I don't know if I called it. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I did call it. I'm not sure if I did or not.
Oh, you did.
I don't know if I said that he's gonna come, overcome the. Did I say that he was gonna come overcome the odds?
That was your exact words.
All right, well then I called it. That he was gonna overcome the odds of him versus the three versus Sanity, and you know what? It was one of the best matches of the night. It's crazy. I don't think other than the UK Championship that any of the title matches stole the show. I will say that the only reason the ladder match will give as much credit as I'll give it is because of all the high spots that it had. Other than that, it really wasn't anything. There really wasn't a lot of wrestling in it at all. It was nothing but, a bunch of high spots and a bunch of basically brute force of fighting. And it, trying to tell the story of how fierce this rivalry was between the Authors of Pain and DIY.
Right. For me, it's just you look at it and, you have to look at the aspects of wrestling. So the first part is probably the most important of them all, and that's storytelling. You can have great wrestling in there, but a match will fail because of really shitty storytelling. If we don't believe what's going on in this ring, then fans are turned off to it. And like the UK Championship match, that had that in there, and a lot of the matches in NXT Takeover generally tend to have it. Of course, the Women's Championship match didn't. You could tell that there was something missing, and we knew that Amber Moon isn't there. So I mean, it was pretty obvious right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other fundamental thing is the actual wrestling itself.
Right.
And if we don't have both of those elements, we start finding something to complain about. And when you look at those matches, you see that things like Bobby Roode, guys with like Bobby Roode, Roderick Strong, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, they all have that gift where they can tell an excellent story and they can put on a great wrestling clinic. And that's why those matches were the best matches of the night, because they were able to tell that story. We might not have been exactly interested to see Hideo Itami against Bobby Roode, but by the end of the night, it was kind of like, wow, that was actually a decent match.
There is one thing I want to state before we continue this review, or the not review, but basically us talking about the show. There's a picture going around of CM Punk, and it's basically what they do whenever there's somebody, either a Hall of Famer or somebody on the main roster. They'll say that was fake. It was Photoshop. That is not a real picture. It's all over social media right now. I even texted Andrew and said, "Is this real?" And then come to find out, it is Photoshop. Once again, it is not real. The picture of CM Punk that is going around right now of him at NXT Takeover, it is not real. So just before anybody goes nuts or anybody does thinks that it is real, it is not. Michael Andrews says in the comment section or in the chat, Takeover was lit. The women's match needed bigger spots, being a triple threat. I don't know what it is about Nikki Cross or Ruby Riott. It's just I don't know if they're not great wrestlers or what. It's just like it seems like I really don't know how to explain. I'm not saying that they're bad, because obviously they're better. They're better than me, but I don't know. It just seems like what we've seen in the past, and every time I see Ruby Riott or Nikki Cross, it's really more brute force than it is of wrestling.
Well, I could see that from Nikki Cross's point of view, because that's her type of character. She's not supposed to be organized like Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode is very conniving and calculating, so you see how he kind of plans everything out. Nikki Cross is supposed to be playing an insane girl. So you should be seeing her wild punches and, the jumps on people and she's screaming and stuff. Like, that's part of her character, which is why I'm not on top of her about that. That's her character, But Ruby Riott, we really don't know who Ruby Riott is right now,
Yeah.
and that's the problem.
I
We
mean,
need to know what type of person you are.
that match didn't even have a lot of Asuka in it. If you want, like, thinking about it, it really didn't.
Well, think about the last time there was a triple threat or a fatal four way. What happened to Asuka? She got isolated the entire match, and then she came back and dominated the last 3 or 4 minutes of that
Well, if you
match.
want the truth, I honestly thought that match was going to be really quick because I looked at the clock, and it was around Central Time. It was around 8:57, and NXT Takeover pay-per-views go over or about 2 hours or just go over 2 hours, which tonight it went over 2 hours, and what I'm trying to get at is, from the get go, it looked like it was going to be a really quick match, because she was dominating both women from the get go, and then they started throwing her out of the ring and stuff, and then it just became Nikki Cross versus Ruby Riott, and I could be wrong, and she could have just as much time as anybody else, but it did feel like that she wasn't in there as much as Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott. It seemed like they were trying to give those two more time, which is not a big deal. But again, like I said at the top of the show, it did kind of show that them not having Ember Moon hurt that match. And of course, they're not going to, do any, there's nothing they can do about it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, though. It's like you kind of knew that that's the second plan. So it's kind of like now they have to improvise. They had weeks to improvise and see what they wanted to do. And this is what they chose to do. Have the two people gang up on Asuka, toss her out, make it look like Asuka might actually lose. But, the match was okay. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was just eh. And one of the things that did it for me to where I was like, this was terrible, was the finish. Look, I'm cool that Asuka. I understand that Asuka had the win, and that I knew Asuka was going to win. It's just the way in which she won was absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
And I say that because if you or I were in a triple threat match and we were the champion, think about this. If we see a pinfall, what's our first thing we're going to do?
Well, depends who's getting pinned.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that
obviously
somebody's
try to stop it.
Well, obviously. So your first thing to do is you go off and you break the pin. That's not what Asuka did. Asuka decides, okay, well, I have plenty of time to go run up against the ropes and then kick Ruby Riott in the face. And you know what? Just for good measures, I'm going to pin them both.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And that wasn't even a finisher.
I don't understand. I mean, I know the message they were trying to build, showing that how strong she is and that she pinned both women, and giving that message. Michael Andrews in the live chat says Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate I thought would have been like a typical cruiserweight match. Turns out, instead to be the match of the year so far.
Like I said, I stand by this statement. I remember when I watched Wrestle Kingdom, I turned around to Blake and I said Kenny Omega versus Okada, best match I've ever seen. Tonight, I think I finally found something better than Omega Okada in Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. And you know what? I said it from the get-go. It was going to be an excellent match because I saw the tournament and how awesome it was. And they raised the stakes up here, and the crowd ate them up. And you know what? I'm glad that they ate them up because you know what that does? Triple H goes back to the back. Vince has no choice but to say, okay, they deserve a show. And that's what I want. You can't deny that they don't deserve a show.
Yeah, I said it on the prediction show that I thought they did. But to anybody that is watching this live as we speak, let us know what you thought of NXT Takeover Chicago. Let us know if there's anything you want, any topics you want to talk about. Let us know. To anybody that is watching this after the live show, so you're watching this at some point when it is uploaded, let us know in the comment section what you thought of NXT Takeover Chicago. Also, give the video a like if you're enjoying it. Also, subscribe if you want to hear more from us. Personally, I can't wait for Ember Moon versus Asuka. I thought the first match was outstanding, and I do think that Ember Moon's going to be the woman wrestler to overtake Asuka. I do think that. What I
Yeah, but I
saw.
think this time they really need to rethink the way in which she does it because their first encounter was kind of pathetic. I was really let down by the match that they had together.
Oh, you didn't like it? I honestly and truthfully really enjoyed that match they had.
I don't know, man. It
The en-
felt kind of
the
lackluster to me.
the ending I will say that was like wow, but I understand the reasons why they did it because Asuka's not a heel or a face. She does it. She wrestles to win. Her goal is to win at the end of the day, or to retain her title, and that's what she did. She retained her title. But you know what? Let's talk about it. We'll give them screen time. The UK Championship, just outstanding, man. Just Pete Dunne, uh, and Tyler Bate, such a good such a good match. That this is the loudest I've ever heard Chicago, other than when CM Punk versus John Cena. Holy
Hmm.
cow, what a match!
Yeah, it just like I said, these two young guys, they're like, you know, what is it, like 23 and 20? You know, it's just to see some young promised talent like that. It's so refreshing, and just to let them go and do what they had to do. I mean, they're not limited by anything. So their styles are entertaining, the characters are entertaining. There's absolutely nothing bad you could say about that match. You just can't. I can't find anything.
Right, absolutely, I agree. There's nothing that you really can say. There was one spot with a where Bates turned Pete Dunne's finisher into a DDT, and it looked like Dunn's.
He broke his
It looked like his neck was
neck.
broken, and I was, whew, it was very physical. Michael Andrews says only NXT fans will know how to appreciate the UK wrestlers. It's sad to say this. Sad to say this, but it's the truth. Look at the cruiserweights now. I think, another thing, Chicago. If you ask any higher ups in WWE about the Chicago crowd, they'll tell you Chicago is a heel city.
Mm.
Well,
But
think of tonight. Roderick Strong, he got the pop. Eric Young got booed. The UK Championship was more even, which is
mhm.
respectable because I mean, even though Pete Dunne is the heel, usually when you have somebody that is respectable and or not respectable, but is such as high class of a wrestler as these two are, you'll get evened out. The what was a women's match after that? It was
Mhm.
Asuka and Ruby Riott got the pop. So both your faces. The NXT Championship was more in the middle, but that's understandable because of Bobby Roode and who Bobby Roode is. And then obviously DIY being the face and getting more of the pops than AOP.
All
So
right.
if
Well,
anyone does say that Chicago is only a heel city, well, explain tonight.
yeah. Well, and it's like I'll answer Michael. It's you got to think about it in terms of like who is behind the scenes. Over in WWE, you got Vince, who's behind the cruiserweights. So ultimately, he's making decisions. Over in the UK, and in NXT, you have Triple H, and Triple H is the one who oversees everything there. So, you know, these are two completely different minds. The way in which they put on a wrestling show are two completely separate things. And Triple H has proven time and time again with NXT that he knows what the fans want. So, it's no surprise that the UK Championship tournament and the Cruiserweight Championship tournament, they were great successes when they were independent and under his thumb. But once you put Vince's stamp of appeal on it, they kind of have to um, dumb it down to Vince's level because Vince has the overall say. Whereas Triple H would say, you know what, just go out. This is what you're supposed to do. Just do it and have fun. So I mean, I think that makes a big difference. Plus, with the cruiserweights and 205 Live, I think they screwed them big time when they decided to put them on after SmackDown. They should have put them on at an earlier time or a different day where at least people are able to see them and give them the appreciation that they deserve.
You also can't forget that the cruiserweight's on Raw, and when it comes to Raw and decision making, Vince has the final say on anything that happens on Raw. So that's another thing. But Uh, I predict. I said at the top at the prediction show that Pete Dunne would win, and I'm glad I wasn't wrong. I don't. I The question is now is when does a rematch happen? Because I personally I can't wait.
Hmm.
So, do you wait until Brooklyn, or because there isn't a promotion for a show? All that there is they had a special over the weekend, and it turned into a championship match for Chicago.
I mean, honestly, after tonight, I think they would be stupid not to give them a chance at Brooklyn. It would just really add to the prestige of Brooklyn and what it's been built into over the years.
All right. Well, here's the other question. NXT is known for having two story matches, storyline
Hmm.
matches. So does this mean that we possibly just only have one storyline match and then or in go from one storyline match to four championship matches, or do we add on to the card? Because again, NXT is only 2 hours when it comes to their takeovers.
Hmm.
So what do you do there? Also, what's next for Hideo Itami? Because obviously he's not getting a rematch.
Um, we'll have to see what happens with Hideo Itami. Honestly, I think that the next best thing would be Roger Strong, but I have a feeling that that feud is not over between him and Eric Young. So, no, we might actually see Hideo Itami and Bobby Roode go at it again.
I
Um,
see Roderick Strong, to be honest with you.
well, I mean, I think Roderick Strong would be the next best choice. Um,
Well, I
but
mean,
I feel like him and
there's no
Eric
reason
Young
there's no
again.
reason for Eric Young to go after him. It was more of him
Well, I mean,
fighting.
I would. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
it was Roderick Strong fighting for his values and family values there, and that's what he
Mm.
did. Is he fought for his family. That was the whole storyline. You don't talk about my family. Michael Andrews says Hideo Itami should fight Drew McIntyre. Honestly and truthfully, what they could do with that is have it sucks to say this, but have Itami be Ty Dillinger. Give him that next big thing. Drew McIntyre go up, needs himself a takeover match, and then you have McIntyre versus Itami, and then whatever obviously have McIntyre win, and then the future is whatever happens after that. McIntyre obviously going to be champion in the future. If not, then I don't see a point why he went to NXT. But back to what I was saying, Roderick Strong. There's no reason for Eric Young to attack him again. If so, then it's just really dumb, especially since Roderick Strong in reality has been feuding with Sanity for months now. So I honestly see another number one contendership match happening, and it being Roderick Strong versus Bobby Roode.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it would hurt them if they added another half an hour to the show. To be completely honest, having one more match, allot another half an hour towards the show.
I think it's fine. I don't think I think what they're doing right now with 2 hours is fine. Um, I just think down the road they're gonna have to have some UK. They're gonna have to have a UK show and UK specials. Um, the question is do you do the UK kind of like what you do with NXT and have like takeover type shows, but only in the UK?
Hmm.
Also, Chicago crowd very respectful to the UK, chanting UK and respecting them. Very respectable crowd tonight during the match.
Hmm. No, I mean, how could you not? I mean, you look at what those two represent, and the kind of talent that they are, you really can't deny them. I mean, if you were to boo any of those two guys, shame on you. Those guys put on a wrestling clinic. You don't, you don't somebody like that. No, you show your appreciation. I respected the fact that every one of the fans in the seats at points in time they stood up and gave him a standing ovation. When that match was over, standing ovation. Chanting the UK, fight forever. This is awesome. Oh my god! Like all these chants, like there was no sign of them slowing down, and the fans just absolutely ate them up.
Yeah.
That airplane spin. Oh man, I'm still dizzy from that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good night. It really, I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's the best takeover because it wasn't. It honestly and truthfully, it had its ups and it did have its downs. So, I mean, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it,
I think that's a fair number.
give it an 8. I'm not gonna go off and be that guy to give it a 9 or a 10. Um, again, I think the women's match. I'm not gonna say it was a complete disappointment, but it could have been better. I think the only reason why the tag team match is going to be looked at as good as it was is because of the high spots that they had. I really the main focus of that match, in my opinion, was the Ciampa heel turn and breaking up of DIY.
Right.
The NXT
Which was
Championship,
a shock.
the NXT Championship and the women's title, I think, suffered from the fact that they had to follow up the UK title.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I was sort of worn out, and the crowd was sort of worn out at that point. Or they were kind of out of it because they put as much energy as they did into that match. So, overall, again, NXT does not disappoint, as usual. But I do think that it was one of their weaker shows that they've had.
Mm.
But what do you feel? Or how do you feel on it? Let us know in the chat what you guys feel also.
I wouldn't say it was one of the weaker shows. I would say it was. Well, I mean, let's be completely honest. The reason why you're giving it an 8 is because of how amazing that UK match was. Like, it wouldn't have been that high if that UK match was a flop. Let's be completely honest. I mean, the wrestling wasn't bad. So, I mean, as long as wrestling and storytelling for the most part isn't bad, it's a guaranteed 6 or 7 right off the bat in my scale. You got to look for the memorable moments, the high points that adds on those extra few points, from 8 to 10. So, to give them an 8 is a decent, like, accurate description of it. I mean, the only thing that was really bad about Takeover, in my opinion, was the women's match. And you know what? Now that I look back at it from like a retrospective point of view, they did immediately follow the UK Championship match. So no wonder we kind of are dogging on it. It's like, how do you follow that up? And it's like the same thing with your NXT Championship. Like, that was right after the women's match. So it was like, why is this here? And I honestly think that was the wrong move. I think that your NXT title should always main event.
I
I
don't
don't
think that
know.
it should always. I mean, I understand why they main evented that. For one, it's the first ladder match of for the titles, plus Ciampa turning heel.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it wasn't worth it for it to be a main event. And I mean, and you know what? It stinks for me to say that too, because for those of you who actually know me, like if my sister's listening, like, seriously, like, everyone knows that the ladder match is my absolute favorite match. So for me to be like kind of turned off to a ladder match, and to say that I'm turned off is bizarre, because I did enjoy the match, but it just wasn't. It wasn't among the best ladder matches I've ever seen, and a lot of it had to do with Authors of Pain. There's only so much the Authors of Pain can do. But the thing that irks me about Authors of Pain is how much of how tanks they are. Only the Authors of Pain or Roman Reigns can take the amount of punishment the Authors of Pain did and get up and still win the championship and be dominant doing so.
Oh God, Michael. He says Vince is drooling to have Charlotte beat Asuka while Ric Flair slowly pleasures them.
It's a big money match is planned already.
I mean, easily, but like I said, I think Ember Moon's going to give Asuka the first loss. I mean, in reality, she's really the first female wrestler to even come close to beating Asuka.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't think that Bailey came close. But I mean, anything you want to get off, anything you really want to say before we finish this up?
I hope this isn't the only high point of wrestling. I really do. I really hope that that tomorrow at Backlash, which I believe is just SmackDown, a SmackDown pay-per-view.
It is.
Um, I, yeah, I hope they don't disappoint. I mean, it is SmackDown after all, so it should be good. But I don't know. No, I don't know if they can follow up what we've seen today. I hope that they can. Um, but they got Shinsuke Nakamura and Dolph Ziggler, which I think is going to be the sleeper, not the sleeper match, like the match that nobody expects to be really good.
Yeah. But
So
before we do go, I just want to let everyone know there will not be a prediction show for Backlash, as I am going to be I'm going to be celebrating with my family Sunday. But there will be a match after, or a show. There will be a show after. So do tune in immediately following Backlash. We will be live giving our thoughts. Michael says a perfect ladder match will probably include Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose. They, in my opinion, are the most creative in these situations. I don't know about that one. I think there could be more. I don't think they would be the best option. I think Harper's gaining momentum, but I don't think Ambrose is the most creative. He hasn't been in a while, in my opinion. But I think again, with that being said, I think that's gonna do it for us for the NXT Takeover show. Again, another good show from NXT. So until tomorrow night, we'll talk to you then. Peace out.